Hello people. Let's imagine this is 1986 and you just bought yourself a new camera. This is what I'm going to talk about today. Now, this is a film camera, which is something that's fairly strange in 2015. Why do I want to talk about it? Now, before I show you the camera itself, because I'm going to show you that in the end of the video, I want to talk about why you should buy a film camera in 2015. When everybody has, just a second, one of these, or everybody has a, a DSLR or a compact camera or whatever. Why do you need a film camera? Well, you don't need a film camera. But just think about it. When was the last time you took your phone out? You took like 200 photos and you never looked at them again. Well, I would imagine that's pretty often, right? For example, when I was in my last holiday, I took my digital camera with me and I took like 1,500 photos. They were nice, but you just, you're at the point where you start doing stuff like this. You just open your camera, right? And you just start shooting. You don't think, What I found out when I bought this film camera about half a year ago, well, I discovered that film cameras force you to think. And thinking is very important in photography. Even in amateur photography like me, if you open up your camera, right, your film camera, and you want to take a photo, you have to think. If I take this photo, my film camera only has 36 shots in it. Yeah, I think it's 36. If I fuck it up, if I fuck up the exposure, the composition, whatever, I not only ruin the film, which costs money, but then I have to get that film developed. Developing a film costs money. Printing out a photo costs money. So each time you fuck up a photo, it costs you something. On a digital camera, it doesn't cost you anything. Just press the delete button on your computer, and that's it. There's another thing. I discovered that whilst I was using this, the basics of photography, stuff like the triangle of exposure, I was thinking about them much more than on a digital camera. This camera in particular has autofocus, so I don't have to focus it manually. It has, surprisingly, aperture priority. So as long as I set my aperture on the lens, it sets the exposure time by itself. But you can do it manually if you want. Also, this camera is a full metal body. This was a serious tool in its time. You want to buy a digital camera that's full metal body from Nikon, maybe you're gonna have to look at something like the Nikon D810, which costs an arm and a leg. This is cheap as dirt. And it still works great. It's almost like 25 years old, this camera, and it works beautifully. I've used it on several vacations. I've used it around town. I've taken what I think probably some of my best photos that I've taken with this camera. It's the same person behind this camera as it is behind a digital camera. But I found out that the mindset I was in whilst I was using my film camera was that, okay, now I have to think. It's like when you go from a zoom lens to a prime lens, where you have to start moving forwards and backwards, left to right, whatever. I found that it was the same type of experience. Also, there are several other types of experiences associated with a film camera. If you shoot photos with your phone, for example, well then, when you want to show them to your friends, you just open up your phone, whatever, go into your gallery and start swiping left, right, or on your computer, start clicking. What I had to do, and what everybody has to do if they have a film camera, have to start making one of these. This is a photo album, something that you haven't seen probably in a long time. I'm not going to show you the photos because they're my life and they're private, just to show you, actual photo album. And it's an actual event when someone comes to your house and you say, let me show you my photos. Take out your photo album, and you've probably written something, besides each photo, and they mean something to you. When you go on holiday, you probably take 2 or 3 films with you. Out of those 2 or 3 films, each film, you're gonna have 2 or 3 photos that you fucked up really bad, and you can't look at them, and you throw them away. So you're maybe left with something like 80, let's say 80 photos. With my digital camera, I had 1,500. Were most of them rubbish? Yes. But the 80, for example, you are left after free films after you throw away the rubbish ones. They are actually beautiful images. They are images that represent you and what you like to shoot. Personally, I use black and white film in this camera. You can use color film, that's absolutely no problem. But, I found that I had to think, okay, I'm going out right now. Is it sunny outside? Because if it was sunny outside, like I have now, you would put ISO 50 film in it, for example, or ISO 100 or ISO 25. If I was going out, for example, in a bar or something, take some pictures of a band, well then I had to think, okay, maybe I have to use ISO 3200 film in it. Did I say that right? I think I did. 3200 ISO film in it, to be able to take pictures in low light. All that stuff. That's the exact idea. It forces you to think about photography. Also, I told you that it has autofocus. Well, you can use it, for example, with one of these. This is a manual focus lens, but it has electronic contacts on the bottom, so it can meter with it. So you do, the camera does the metering, but you do the focusing. It's, so many options you have with one of these cameras. And this is normal 135 film, not medium format or anything like that. The basic film that our parents used when they had to take photos. And for example, I remember the joys of when I was a little boy of watching my parents' pictures in their photo album, and that was something that I lost, as a grown-up adult. Well, it's something that I got back right now, and I strongly encourage you, go onto eBay or whatever. You can buy one of these cameras. For example, depending on where you are in the world, depending on what lens it has, you can buy one of these anywhere from $20, $30, maybe up to $100 if it has a good lens on it. And go outside or indoors or whatever and start shooting. And you trust me, you will see a dramatic improvement in your shots, and the overall experience is going to be something for you that I believe will bring you real pleasure and value to your photography. Now, that's all I had to say. I'm just going to bring you guys closer in to look at the camera, and I'll leave you guys then to make up your own decisions, okay? Okay, so after that introduction plus conclusion combination, I want to show you the camera real fast, so you can know what you're getting if you buy something like this. Now, as I've said, this is a full metal body camera, and I have a metal lens on it also, so you know what you call a pro construction. This is Japanese construction at its finest. It's something that if you want to buy today, you have to spend thousands of dollars or euros on it. Now, a real quick look at the front of the camera. Right here at the bottom, you have the focus switch, single, continuous. It does have continuous, although it shoots at 2 frames per second, so it's not that great. And manual focus. Now, this camera does have a built-in focus motor. So, any of Nikon's AF or AFD lenses will autofocus on this camera. If you want to use a AFS lens, a modern lens on this camera, it will not autofocus. You will have to manual focus it. Yeah. Also, you have your autofocus lock button on the side. I have a modern cap on it because the cap my lens had was partially broken. What else? Let me look at the back of the camera. This is something quite strange. We're used to screens in the back of our cameras. This has nothing since it's a film camera. You only have the small window which shows you what type of film you have in there. You have your viewfinder up here, your standard flash hot shoe. On top of the camera, the important part I would say, let's start from this part right here. This right here is your shutter release button, or your taking photo button, in common tongue. It doesn't work right now because it's in the lock position. You want to start it up, you have to lift this button up and put it in the single. Now it's in single focus, it can start taking pictures. If I press it a bit, half press it, it beeps. Push it up again and put it in the continuous position. Now you can get that blisteringly fast 2 frames a second. Although I wouldn't advise using that on a film camera because each shot you waste, you have to pay for it. I'm gonna put it in a single, so now now it's basically on, you can take pictures. Right here, this little switch. If you leave it on the beep position, when you take photos, if something's wrong, it beeps to tell you something's wrong. Push it down, doesn't beep anymore. You know, if you want to quiet shutter. Now, this button right here, in combination with this one right here, I'm not going to use them right now. You use these in order to rewind your film. The film rewinds manually on this camera. Now, the beautiful, nice dial. My microphone is about 15 centimeters away from the camera. I'm gonna shut up and you have a listen to this. Now, this thing clicks like it's brand new, and this camera is 25 years old. That shows you the level of engineering, the level of design that's gone into it. Funny thing, if you want to, you know, set your exposure time manually, you just have to turn this baby. If you put it into A, that's not auto mode, that's aperture priority. Meaning that you have to set your aperture on the lens, you know, like any AF or AFD or AI Nikon lens, and then the camera sets the exposure time by itself. Fantastic. At the time, this was a very, very modern feature. We expect nowadays that any DSLR will have aperture priority. Next, we have P mode. P mode means program mode. It's basically the auto mode we know today. P dual is basically fully auto. Simply P mode. This the camera does everything by itself, but it sets, you know, slower shutter speeds. P high, the camera sets higher shutter speeds. Honestly, don't use program mode. Use aperture priority and set your aperture on your lens with the aperture ring. Moving on this other camera, this little lever right here is what you use to crank up and roll up your film. I'm not going to do that because I have film in the camera right now. Also, right here, if you press this button and turn this dial, you can set your exposure compensation. Yeah? And if you lift this dial up and spin it around, right here on the bottom, you can set your film ISO. Now, if I'm not mistaken, on this camera, maximum ISO is 3200. So basically, you have everything you need. Your aperture on the lens ring. You have your exposure time right here, your ISO right here, and that is your exposure triangle. You have everything you need. Now, as I said, you can use, you know, manual focus lenses on this camera. Just to show you a small comparison, this camera is not quiet. I am gonna let it, you know, look for focus on autofocus mode. Have a listen to this because it's fucking loud compared to one of these cameras. Just to compare that to a modern camera, just real quick from the same position. Sorry. So, you know, the difference in sound is incredible. Now, I don't think that you guys deserve me to waste one of my film positions so you guys can hear the shutter. But the shutter is like, imagine if you would be closing a metal door, you know, a metal vault door. That's how the shutter sounds. It's quiet as a metal vault door. Another nice thing, the belt it comes with. This beautiful maroon and yellow Nikon belt. Compare that to today's belts. You know, everybody has one of these black and yellow. This maroon one is absolutely fantastic. It's wide, it's soft, you know. Also, it has these beautiful metal belt buckles. And it says Nikon Japan on them. The quality of this, as the quality of the whole camera, is absolutely incredible. Normal Nikon belts nowadays have these stupid plastic belt buckles, which are horrible. I've seen people selling these belts alone on eBay, Amazon, whatever, for like $10. And I tell you, these are worth it. They are fantastic. Just, you know, I'm gonna just take the lens off real quick. That's the mirror inside. Not gonna, you know, just a normal mirror. Not gonna waste my time on it. I would recommend, for example, on a camera like this, I bought my camera with a 50mm F-1.8 AF Nikon lens. This lens works perfectly on this camera. I would recommend, also something like the 35 f2, 20 millimeters, whatever you want, like to shoot, get it, put it on this camera, and go out and have fun. Okay, so that was it, guys. See you. Bye.